Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another fantastic edition of Sitback with Shaq and Anu. It's a Tuesday night, just a couple of minutes past 10 o'clock. We're back on coming to you live on our platforms and, of course, going live on Dialogue TV, Channel 1 Dialogue TV. Good evening, are you?
Hi, Shaq. Good evening, and good evening, everyone. Today, somehow the connection be a little wonky, right, Shaq?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, we have these off days, so we just hope that today, obviously, it holds on. So we're doing this. Unfortunately, we're forced to do this purely because of the fuel crisis that we are undergoing, and otherwise, all our chats are in studio chats, and there's so much fun at the same time.
And the thing is that we just don't have fuel to get to them. And even if we do the studio, I mean, in the midst of a power cut, we just don't have fuel to run the generator. So, it is what it is. But, actually, I think this is a good format, Shaq, that we have, I think, kind of presented to Sri Lanka, because this has never been done before. This completely online, which goes on TV at the same time. So, I think this is a very explorable, maybe, extendable format that we.
True. At the same time, Anu, is the fact that it's so just like a normal Zoom call or something like that. It's a fully produced show,
Yeah.
and the funny thing or the good thing about is the fact that everybody is certainly not, we can't see each other. That's the most important thing, because I'm in the studio, you're at home, I'm at home, and we're just communicating with either scratching our ears or basically scratching our noses just to make sure that we communicate with each other in knowing what we need to do, Anu.
That's true. That was my suggestion earlier in the evening.
Let's move on to the show today. We got a very interesting show lined up, of course, completely different. But what we do on the show is the fact that we pretty much talk about trending topics in Sri Lanka at the moment. What are the trending topics? Of course, we are not short for anything that's actually trending, and we tap into all those topics, and we obviously have a chat. And today we'd like to, of course, introduce Christian Skoog, who is the UN representative, the UNICEF representative in Sri Lanka. And thank you so much for joining us, Christian. Good evening. Welcome to the show with Sitback.
Hi, Christian.
Thank you, Shaq and Anu. Good evening. Nice to be with you.
Wonderful. It's great to have you on the show today.
Absolutely, and just to reiterate that fact, wonderful to have you on the show, and we've got lots of questions to ask you, which is pretty much reflective of the questions that a lot of Sri Lankan people are asking out there, because there's a lot of fear out there because it's an unprecedented situation. I'm sure you've seen it before, Christian, because I know you've worked before in Mexico, in Haiti, and you've probably seen, very similar kind of scenarios. So, yeah, we will get into it because we'll ask all those pertinent questions from you.
Just before we start off with what we do with our guests, before that, we actually have a daily poll, Christian. More often than not, our poll is usually based on the subject that we're actually talking about, or the guest that actually is on the show. So today, we're getting into the daily poll right now. So we'll have it on your screen, and everyone knows exactly what they need to do. Let's have it right now.
All right, without further ado, here is your poll. It's always a yes or no answer, and you're supposed to send in your answer to our hotline 077-669-1590, and at the end of the show, we'll tell you the answer as it stands. So, very succinctly, are we in danger of starvation? Are we, as in Sri Lanka, are we in danger of starvation? Yes or no? Please WhatsApp your answers 077-669-1590.
Right, that's exactly how you need to send in your answers for the poll. So, Christian, diving straight into the conversation today, talking about this food crisis that is looming and everyone is actually talking about it. We'll speak about that, then we'll move in to the malnutrition that, of course, is also on a high with lots of children in Sri Lanka. But talk us through this food crisis. Where do we stand right now, Christian, and how critical is it for Sri Lanka?
Well, Sri Lanka is a place where everything grows almost, so that's a good start. But of course, we've seen the harvest, the production go down in the last year, um, and we are also concerned.
Thank you so much. Welcome back to the show. It's unfortunate that our connections. I mean, what we said earlier on, just before we started. One of those days, I think our connections are just a bit wonky today, all around. Not just us. I think everyone, of course, is seeing this. So hopefully, keeping our fingers crossed. Hopefully, it will actually hold on. To actually come on the show, I know he just started talking about about Sri Lanka and the good thing
Yeah.
that things grow in Sri Lanka, and then we all just froze like that. So
I may have spoken too soon, Check. Earlier when I said, we may have introduced something new. This is what you call at the beginning names. So,
but as much as we love to do this show according to the way that we are forced to do it, but it really is
yeah,
nothing just like coming into the studio and having the guest in front
yeah.
of you and a good cordial chat. But sadly, we are in a situation that fuel is a scarcity at the moment. So hopefully, when things get back to some sort of normalcy, we definitely want to get back because that's the thing with technology. You love it and you hate it at the same time. One of those things, isn't it?
Absolutely, and the thing is, the dynamics are very, very different when you're actually on live in the same studio, and
Right.
actually it answers your questions, your questioning style, and also the responses. So it's far more relaxing for especially with the two of us, Jack. Anyone who's like coming into the studio on the back foot, and we've seen many politicians pass through our screen, let me just say. And I mean, they come very pensive in at first, and then they immediately relax, and it just goes to show great TV.
That's right. That's exactly how it is. So I'm getting information that Christian is actually back on. So let's have him back on the show right now. Welcome back to the show, Christian. We apologize. Unfortunately, there are
Nice.
certain things that we have control over, and there are certain things that we don't. Like this is one of them. We don't.
No worries. Nice to see you again.
Good. So, Christian, you were actually talking about the food crisis that is looming, and you touched on the fact that
Yeah,
a good thing is that everything grows in Sri Lanka. So let's just pick it up from that
yeah,
point onwards.
yeah. No, that's the good point. The less good point is that the expectations are that the coming season, or the Yala season, the crop will be, the harvest will be quite a bit lower than normal, so to speak, 50-60% only of it. So there will be a problem going forward, and that is presuming that fertilizer will arrive where it needs to arrive in the coming weeks or so. So there are many factors, but and we hope that everything will come together, and that will be enough. But I think that in all likelihood, it's not really enough for what the country needs. So there needs to be more seeds, particularly for people to grow. I would hope, and many of us would hope, that food assistance as such is not needed. Although I know there's some shipments coming in with some basic staples, rice and that's okay. But we're keeping our fingers crossed, and the UN is actually currently undertaking an assessment mission on the crop and food security situation. They're going around the country, every district, and when they come back with their conclusions in 10 days or so, we hope that we hope it's fairly good news. But it's all pretty. Well, we can't be too optimistic, but hope that things will come together.
So when you
Christian,
say, sorry, yeah, Check, you go ahead.
yeah, no. So, Christian, just like Anu said that you've actually worked in so many different countries before, and you've gone through similar issues. But how different is it in Sri Lanka at the moment? Because food crisis, of course, stems from so many different things that we are experiencing. It's like everywhere you're actually banging into a wall. So,
Yeah.
how different is it in Sri Lanka compared to the other countries that you actually have worked and got this?
No, it's, Sri Lanka is a starting point. There are good systems here, good progress on many social issues, and health and education has been doing very well, and decent, good economic growth over some time. So it's starting at a good level. What is worrying to me is not the situation or the nutritional situation as such. It's the pace at which things are deteriorating. If you, the fact is no fuel. I've never experienced anything like that, even in much poorer countries. The lack of fertilizer, the lack of cooking gas, some basics. That I haven't seen, but the starting point is better. So I think that we can still avoid a humanitarian crisis. And I've worked in humanitarian crisis, but they've been poorer countries, and they've been more due to a sudden onset of disaster, and not this spread like across the whole country. Situation as it is the case in Sri Lanka. So that the pace of it all and how quickly things are changing is worrying. But hopefully that pace we can stop that by urgent support from around the world, and make sure systems can kick in place and sustain the population. And I'm talking about health and getting kids back to school, making sure that people can make a decent living. And I think when things pick up, they can pick up quite very quickly.
So, Christian, I just have to ask, who exactly is at risk, and what are the numbers?
Well, in UNICEF, we are concerned about everybody, but particularly about children. There are 4.8 million children in school, or supposed to be in school. They're not in school this week because schools are closed. So that is, in a sense, those 4.8 million were supposed to have been in school for the past 2.5 years, and most of that time they've spent outside school. So that's a risk. That's not, you don't lose your life because of not going to school, but you do lose life chances and opportunities. It changes your life if you cannot go to school and get an education. You need to have it. So we are the children are in need of catching up. So that's a long-term, very serious a situation with potentially very serious long-term consequences. When we talk a bit more about acute problems, nutrition, you mentioned that earlier on. That's a crucial issue. We know that the food situation and the fact that most households now, 2/3 have changed their food consumption. They're eating less. They're eating less variety, and that can affect on people's health and on their nutritional status. And so, coming high malnutrition rates, that will only get worse. The situation changes quickly. In numbers, it depends a bit on how you estimates are that 56,000 children are at severe risk of acute malnutrition this year if things don't change.
So, Christian, in terms of what you just said, family that eating because of the current economic situation, or they're actually eating cheap, which is unfortunate at the moment. We are right in the middle, but how easy is it going to be for the families to slowly come out? It's going to be a tough task, but what do they need to get back the nutrition reserve at the moment?
One hopes that they have variety in enough quantity to get back to more regular eating habits, if you want. Skipping meals, that's what's worrying. But less in a state of fairly of nutrition. You don't need any specific supplements. I mean, that is important when you are pregnant, when you are but otherwise, just getting back to your eating habits, eating fruits, particularly, and
I think up to you, Christian. So if we can just basically get Christian to re-log in again, I think we might most probably be able to actually get a better connection. So a bit unfortunate at the moment, because I mean it's a connection that we are all sadly suffering at the moment. Yeah, so Anu, just before we get Christian to come back on the show right now, we're talking about the current situation. We're talking about exactly the malnutrition mission with the kids. A good point that Christian actually made is the fact that which we didn't necessarily realize is for the last 2 years, children have not been to school, what contributes massively for the education of food and nutrition at the same time. It's just not all about eating at the end of the day.
Absolute thing is this, this creates massive problems, and I've seen it firsthand because I own school, and I see, what a lot of parents are going through and what is because it's not just life first. You've got to have the right kind of nutrition for take on any other problem. There are lots of points. There's depression setting in. There's all kinds of other supposed to captain their sports. The ones who were supposed to get colors. They just power without a sound. You know what I mean? And especially in Colombo schools, cricket captaincy, rugby captaincy, all of these elements. You missed it, right? Colors similarly, and not just that. I think the efforts at the O levels and A levels has been abysmal at best, because that children thrive in an environment where there are other children. If you are stuck at home, doing classes online, if you've got the net capacity or if you've got the wherewithal, yeah, but it's still very bleak, and you're just facing each other if you have siblings and your parents, and you're bound to drive each other up the wall. I'm sure we've all experienced that, and that's a really important thing, and we didn't even realize that for 2.5 years that our children have been effectively missing school. They have been intermittent at best.
That's right. I just got word that hopefully that Christian is back, and we're really battling the network connection today on the show. But hopefully we'll try and see if we can keep our fingers crossed and see if this can go on. Christian, we were talking about exactly what you mentioned, with something that we didn't necessarily realize, because when you talk about nutrition, when you talk about malnutrition, you only basically talk about food. But something that you pointed out is the fact that kids not being in school for the last 2 years, and they've only been in school intermittently, also contributes to the whole factor of not knowing what to eat and the advantages of eating nutrition food.
Indeed, the meals program is something in many countries that we promote very strongly, because it's a nutritious meal, and it brings kids kids to school, and it alleviates a bit of the burden of the family. So it has some incentives to it, and if that is not sustained, we lose out, and that's another reason for children being kept at home, because they don't even get food there. But if they do, it's a way to keep children in school. So there are many benefits, and it's very that is not being able to be sustained at the moment. So that is something that we're trying to push and support, together with other United Nations agencies, the World Food Program, to make sure that some school feeding is able to.
Christian, you earlier that the Yalla season, what we are hoping for, if the food gets here on time, is about 50 to 60% from previous harvests, right?
Yes.
No, even during previous harvests, even if we have what we call a 100% harvest, we still have to import certain food elements to the country, because we are not self-sufficient in a lot of things. So with the 50 to 60% of what you're expecting, how much more we need, and what portion of that would be aid, with the United involvement?
I don't know the percentages. We don't deal with food in UNICEF, but if things go well, like I said, I think we can expect 50-60% production, and there should be, there are indications that friendly will support and fill up, most of the deficit there. There are also efforts, of course, in country to quickly get going in your backyard or wherever you can, and the land that have a little land, and if you haven't cultivated it. So for everybody to contribute, I think that keeping our fingers crossed that it should be feasible. But as we've heard, the situation is not good, and we need to get a bit before it gets better. So we're just hoping and trying what we can together with many other actors, talking to other countries as well, and see what. As you say, there's a big food basket, and some things, the food that's not grown locally. So it's not. But of course, with the currency deficit at the moment, it's hard to pay for the invite. Have to rely a bit on the direct support from.
So unfortunately, we're finding it very, very difficult to actually carry on with the conversation, because things just not holding on. But before we do let you go, just got one question, because with the humanitarian efforts that you are looking into, as far as concerned, how do you plan to roll it out? Because I know there's an appeal, that's a global appeal that's actually gone out in terms to help with the food crisis. When things do get around, how does UNICEF plan to roll it out to the part of Sri Lanka that actually deserve the requirements at the moment?
No, the rolling. I mean, we as soon as it comes in from what we have appealed for, when in the case of UNICEF, $25 million, when things come, we roll it out. We do have an issue to get out, to move around. So that is
right.
A bit of an issue, but some of it is about bringing supplies in, and as soon as they come in, we should be able to, with the support of some of the government distribution systems, get nutritional elements out there, or support to schools. For example, there are also other areas of direct support to pregnant and lactating women, and that is a lot of it's cash to get them programs that existed before that we want to make sure that they get back on track. So a lot of that can be done without having to travel too much. There are systems in place to make sure that they get it based on registries. So some of that can happen anyway. But I think fuel is a key concern at the moment. But maybe just as big a concern is that we need money because we don't have money ourselves. We rely on mobilizing money from private citizens around the world and also governments, other governments.
Christian, thank you so much. There were so many questions that we obviously had for you today, but it looks like technology is really helping us to get through to that. But we promise that we will basically try and get in touch with you, and we'll try and pre-record some of the other questions that we have. I think because it's very, very important that we get these answers to everybody who's actually listening in. So apologies from our end that we couldn't actually continue with the show. Really unfortunate that we have issues and connectivity issues today. But Christian, thank you so much for coming on the show. But we will definitely reach out to you so we can actually have another chat very, very soon.
Happy to do so, Shaq Anu. Sorry about the technical problems. Thank you very much.
No problem so much. That's Christian Skoog, the representative of UNICEF. We had so many things lined up. Unfortunately, it's one of those days. Everybody's internet is pretty bad today. I don't know what happened. I mean, we're all stuck somewhere.
I tell you, I actually had about 5 questions lined up, and I think he was starting to build up. Yeah, it's pretty.
we can't even hear each other. It's pretty bad. But sorry, unfortunately, we have to end the show abruptly. But hopefully, we can get Christian back on the show. Another conversation on social media. Apologies from all of us. Unfortunately, there are certain things we can control. There are certain things we have absolutely no control over. That's one of those days today. So we shall see you once again tomorrow night at 10 p.m. as we got another very special guest lined up, and hopefully keeping our fingers crossed, the connectivity should be okay. Till tomorrow, have a good night.